Okay, Weiting, Bollu. Very nice to meet you. I hope I said that right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Anthony.
You did give me a debriefing right before, so otherwise I'm sure I would have butchered it. But Weiting, you are the co-founder / owner / operator of OpenRoom.ca.
That's right.
So could you explain what OpenRoom.ca is for people?
OpenRoom.ca, we aggregate tenancy-specific court orders, and then we extract the information from it, and then we make it publicly searchable.
Yeah. So this, I feel like, has just been like a long time coming and on the wish list of so many investors that I know to have an ongoing database. Now, they would say of bad tenants to look into. Now, I know that isn't necessarily what the site's all about, but you can see all these court orders from the Landlord Tenant Board, amongst other boards as well. I believe you're all across Canada, right?
Yes.
So this is very interesting for landlords. I feel like this is the first thing of its kind, no?
I would say we're actually not the first, because prior to OpenRoom, there's actually Canley.org.
Yeah.
And Canley is operating under all of they're funded by all of the law societies of Canada. So with that, what's the major issue there is that it wasn't timely and it wasn't relevant to what we're searching for. So say, for example, I had 7 orders that I wanted to share with the world, but they weren't posted onto Canley. And I don't understand why or all the intricacies behind it, but for someone who is searching these orders on my name or the tenants that I had, they wouldn't be able to find it. And it wasn't until 2 years after my eviction situation that it actually ended up on Canley.
So Canley is the Canadian, what is it again? It's the I forget what it stands for.
It stands for the Canadian Legal Institute, or Canadian Legal Information Institute.
Yes. And it posts court judgments from, I believe, all levels of courts in Canada, all the way up to the Supreme Court, I believe, right?
Absolutely.
Including, I don't know what the word would be, but including smaller provincial courts like the Landlord Tenant Board, correct?
Yes, and it talks about criminal side, not just the Landlord Tenant Board, but all sorts of cases that's beyond tenancy related. But when it comes to OpenRoom, we only look at tenancy court orders. And to your point of the real estate investment community has been really looking at something like this, it's because there have been bad tenant lists or bad landlord lists that have been started in the past. But the thing is, they weren't factual and they weren't objective. But that's our operating principle. And when we look at all of the other ones, it's review sites or people posting names without factual information behind it. And what makes OpenRoom work is that these court orders or LTB judgments or just general orders in general, they are public information. It's just that it's not easily accessible by the public, but we've made it accessible. And which is why it works.
Yeah. Okay. So whereas these other lists were just random landlords posting, hey, this guy kind of screwed me over. Here's his name. Here's what happened. Or watch out for this guy.
Exactly.
And it's in like a Facebook group or something.
Yeah. And that is extremely dangerous because the information that you have on someone that we have on people, we have their legal names and their addresses. And this is very sensitive information. But when you look at sites like that, when people post about that, it's pretty much defamation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's no evidence to say that they were a bad tenant. Something like this is just so necessary.
Thank you.
So can you describe who you are a little bit and how and why you started this thing?
Absolutely. My name is Weiting, and my background actually has been in product management. So I've been working in the software field for the last decade. And then while I was going through my last product management job experience, on the side, I had an investment property. And then the whole house was actually rented to a set of tenants. They were great at first in 2017 when I had first vetted them. And then the pandemic had happened. So then at that point, my tenants decided they weren't going to pay rent anymore after I asked them to move out because I wanted to grow my family. I wanted to move back into the house. After that, it went on for about 2 years. I landed with $35,000 of unpaid rent, and that's where I had gone to the LTB for that eviction situation or the process. Out of the LTB, I came out, or the LTB stands for the Landlord Tenant Board, for those who don't know. And from there, I landed with 7 orders that talked about the personal use, the unpaid rent, and that's where I said, this is public information. Why isn't it known to the public? And that's where I started.
How did you know it was public information?
Because I knew about Canly, and I actually went to Canly and I said, can you please share this? And I messaged them multiple times, first month, third month, a year after, and they still ignored me. So I was...
Did you get any response from them?
Yeah, I did. The response was, we unfortunately can't do anything about it because they are up to the LTB to send them the orders.
Oh, God.
Yes, and I don't know about all the processes behind it. So I said, I can't wait forever. And I know that there are people who are getting away with bad actions, and we need to hold people accountable.
Yeah. Okay, so Canly's a government-run website, correct?
No, not government-run. They're run by the law societies, or at least funded by the law societies. But they do work with the various courts.
Okay, got it. And with Canly, do you know if 2 years, like you said your court orders took about 2 years to post, do you know if that's kind of the standard, or...
You know what? I think that many orders actually never make it onto Canly.
Yeah,
because I have 7 and only 2 of mine are on there. Now, there are very specific types of orders that make it onto Canly. Some of the ones that don't make it on would be, say, mediation ones, or ones with children involved, or domestic violence. Like there are some things that they don't ever send to make it public.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've known about Canly for years now, and I'll use it for quick skims for when I'm finding tenants, but I just don't fully trust it. And because it's government run, I'm like, how competent is this really? I've just never really trusted that all the court judgments are on there. So it's good to know that that's probably the case. So I got pretty excited when I saw OpenRoom come out. And when I first saw it come out, it had like 8,000 court orders on there. And now I believe, I just checked this morning, it has 24,000 and change.
Yes.
Okay, so the word is getting out that this thing exists.
Absolutely. And we really count on the community to share their orders with us. So if you are a landlord, a tenant, a paralegal that was involved, a property management firm that was involved in a dispute case, we want to see the order. Please share it.
Okay, and it's free to post and also free to search for people.
Absolutely. Free to search and free to post.
Okay, so like how have people received this?
I would say...
What have you seen from, the inside out building this thing?
Oh, when we started back in September 2022, we had about 700 people each month on the site, just browsing, looking around. And then the following year, last year, September 2024, we were looking at 11,000 people searching the site and browsing, submitting information to us. And then now this year, 2024, September, we have crossed over 30,000 regularly every single month, eyeballs on OpenRoom.
Wow.
So from there, what it says to me is that the word of mouth that has gone on, telling each other about OpenRoom, it is strong. Everybody wants to help each other, and that's fantastic to that connected future that we want to build.
Yeah, wow. To grow from just posting your 7 original court orders to 24,000 with that amount of traffic. Congrats on the growth.
Thank you.
So how does it work? Can you post, if you file a notice to a tenant, or if you file an application to a tenant, or the final court order, like what can you actually post? Can you post notices, applications?
You cannot post notices or applications. You can only post or share with us the final order that was shared with you by the LTB, or the final adjudicated order.
Okay, so that makes sense, right? It has to be like a final decision from the court. That way it's confirmed that this person was in the wrong for this thing.
Absolutely. And that's when we look at factual and objective. Because when you're at the notices phase, people can write notices and then they get paid back. And that's not enough to show or share with the world. We believe that there has to be that final adjudicated stance before it can be shared.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And now this covers all notices, all court orders, anything from the landlord-tenant board.
Anything from the landlord-tenant board, with the exception of, say, N12 notices. So when in the case of a tenant going to court to go after their landlord for bad faith evictions, in those situations, we actually want to protect the tenants. So if it was a bad faith eviction and the tenant won the case, then we would actually make their names unsearchable in the database. We never redact anything or take out names on the exact order itself, but we can make it unsearchable. And that's because tenants, we want them to hold their landlords accountable.
Okay, so this isn't just for landlords, this is for tenants as well.
Yes, it is. And we're trying to find more ways that we can protect the tenants and keep holding landlords accountable as well.
Yeah. What percentage would you say are cases from tenants in the wrong versus landlords in the wrong?
I'd say the majority of our cases are actually for non-payment of rent, and that's where we focus on more heavily in the system. But when we look at percentages, I'd say about an 80-20.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah. That's higher than I was expecting.
Yeah.
So tenants are learning about this. One of the questions I had for you was like, how much blowback have you received for this? How much pushback from tenant advocacy groups? For example, saying, hey, this isn't right. Have you had any of that from the media or these groups?
Yeah, we showed up on CBC and all these other news channels that wanted to talk to us earlier on this year in mid-year. One of the complaints from the tenant advocacy side is that we're creating more homeless individuals. How I see it, it's that if we can bring back confidence in the small landlords to bring out their vacant properties, because so many of them feel burned or have seen others being burned, that they want to hold their units vacant. And what does that do? It means that it lowers the supply of housing available. And these are your most affordable units out there, say your basement units, right? And people don't really want to create lane suites or garden suites anymore because they're just so scared. And so from that perspective, we look at it and we're saying, if we can bring back confidence in the small landlords and we can bring back supply and then help with the demand of the housing. And so what I see is that we're hoping to be part of the solution to the housing crisis.
It's like a massively understated, impact that it has on the housing crisis and lack of supply is the fact that so many people are just scared to rent their units out now because of the delays at the landlord-tenant board, because people know how to work the system. It's really sad and it's not really discussed much, but it's a huge factor. Like I know a guy who purchased a condo in Burlington, has owned it for probably 5 to 6 years and doesn't live in it, bought it for himself. He's actually living with one of his elder parents to kind of take care of them for now. So one day I think he does plan on moving in. But in the meantime, even though I've offered to help him rent it out, to do all the tenant screening for him, dude, I've got your back. I'll hold your hand. I'll make sure it's a good quality tenant. He's too scared. And he's like, I don't want to have to deal with it. He's like, what if I want to move in? I can't get them out. What if they stop paying rent? What if they damage the unit? So he's sat on this thing and missed out on tens of thousands, maybe even over $100,000 of rent over the past 6 years he could have been getting because he's scared.
Wow. 6 years.
6 years. Yeah, probably 5 or 6 years. I worked with him at my old job and that was, like about 6 years ago. And last I heard a couple of years ago, he still hadn't rented it out.
And Anthony, isn't that just so sad? I think that we could actually do so much more in this environment to help protect individuals who want to rent out, but they're just so scared. So what else can we do? Yeah. Okay, so word has gotten out on this thing. More and more people are posting. So you're urging landlords to go on there, post any court orders. Is there like a delay, nothing from 10 years ago or 7 years ago? Like how far back can you kind of post these court orders? When it comes to the court orders itself, you can post anywhere from the past. But then the other piece that we have is that we can actually put court orders to work even harder, not just searching in the OpenRoom court order search engine, but we can actually send it into Equifax. So how that works is that if you have an order for non-payment of rent, send it into us and use our rental debt ledger where we track every single cent dollar that is owed to you if it hasn't been paid back yet. And then every single month we will send that amount to Equifax to negatively impact someone's credit score. That's to hold them further accountable for their actions.
Are you allowed to do that?
Yes, we are allowed to do that because we have a partnership with Equifax and we have been testing with them all last year and we've finally made it available to the public and people are using it right now.
So let's say you get a non-payment of rent, your tenant owes you $14,000. So the landlord can post that court judgment to OpenRoom and then use the rental debt ledger service you have on there to post the $14,000 that's owed, and just you input the tenant's personal information to kind of link it to their Equifax credit profile and go from there.
Exactly.
And then just inform the tenant, hey, this is actually now all being reported to Equifax as well.
We let the tenants and the landlords know when we have reviewed everything in the background because everything is based on a court order or an order. So it's factual and objective. And then we're able to calculate all of the dollars. We don't even need the landlord to come in here and post any of the numbers. We can calculate that ourselves. And then we're able to notify everybody, then we send it to Equifax.
Is this service free? You guys offer this for free or paid?
This is a paid service, but I believe that it is pretty affordable for the small landlord out there.
How much is it?
It is $88 per application right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And then what if there's like a payment plan to have that money paid back? How does that factor in? Like, I guess, how do you, or is it you reviewing these?
Our team reviews each of the orders that come in for rental debt ledger. But when we look at payment plans, OpenRoom does not touch any piece of the money. So there's no commission fees that we're taking on top of anything. If the tenant wants to pay back their unpaid rent, they would have to talk to the landlord themselves and facilitate that, and then give us proof that they have paid back. And then the landlord can go into the system themselves to record the payments all the way up until it is paid.
Okay. Like, how does Equifax know that it's being paid back based on an agreed upon payment schedule? Like, if there's 14 grand owing and the 14 grand isn't fully paid back 1 month later, is that a ding? Like, is it supposed to be $200 a month? Like, how is that sorted out?
Well, if there's still an amount showing, Equifax will know that there's still amount showing because we're still sending that information.
Okay, and the tenant has no choice whether or not this unpaid amount can be not reported to Equifax.
The only choice from there would be if the landlord or the person filing that rental debt ledger to us tells us to stop for various reasons. A payment plan is not enough to say that there's no rent owing anymore.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a powerful tool.
Yeah. What's really important here is that you no longer need consent from the tenants in order to hit their credit score, because they're a debtor now.
It sucks that you can't do that right from the get-go with rent payments in general.
Rent payments.
That it's only these rent arrears owing that you can kind of do this, right?
Yeah, but actually with consent, you can do
with
on
consent,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, you're
with
right.
Consent.
So then what people will usually do, or for investors or housing providers, realtors who are listening, what you'd want to do is write in the Schedule A or the appendix, addendum of your lease agreement that says that the tenant has to give you consent in order to do on-time rent payment into Equifax or use a third party to do it. So get that upfront right away.
Interesting. What do you know any of the names of the services that offer that Equifax reporting?
Oh, there are so many out there, and OpenRoom will be providing that as well. Some of the other ones out there, like there are ones where you could use your credit cards to pay rent and then send it in. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that. I think Chexy.
Yes.
That might be on Chexy.
Yeah, that one
or
is
Pay
really
Simply.
good. Yeah, there are quite a few out there.
Which are great, actually. I should mention if you're a credit card points hacker and you're accumulating travel points and you pay rent, it doesn't matter if your landlord asks for e-transfer. You can have it routed through Chexy. They charge a small fee, 1.75% on your rent payments for the service, but then you can pay your rent using credit cards to accumulate these points, which hopefully can redeem for a value more than 1.75%. So that's a little tip on that end. But yeah, Chexy, I believe, will report that. I mean, and if you have a tenant who wants to build their credit score, then it's a great option for them.
Yes.
It also kind of holds them accountable. So it gives you further assurance as a landlord that there's at least a further consequence of them not paying their rent, right?
Yeah. I mean, you'd question why someone wouldn't want to have their credit score impacted positively when they sign a lease with you.
Yeah.
So if someone doesn't want to sign, you're just like, well, why wouldn't you want to sign? There's only positives. If you're paying your rent, I'm going to be helping you. So double take on those situations.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. Something about it to me still feels new, like too new. I don't know.
It's true. It is very new. And it was
like, I could see myself being a bit apprehensive about that, even though I pay my rent on time and in full every month. And it's like, I don't know.
But why?
I don't know. I guess not. I guess I should do it. So where I live right now, I pay rent and I pay it to my building provider because it's a large corporation that runs the building that I live in. They have an option that I can pay with credit card. And so I do. And there's a fee, 1.75%, the same as Chexy. And I collect points. Yeah. So I use this service. And the reason I haven't used Chexy is because I already have the service. But just thinking about it now, I'm like, I might as well switch to Chexy. I'm going to pay the same fee and I can keep building my credit score.
Yeah. You know what? When you say new, it is fairly new because you look at it and Equifax and TransUnion, the largest credit bureaus that are out there in Canada right now, There isn't an additional line anywhere that says this is rental data. It's actually just a trade line. So similar to how you would pay your credit card or when you take out a mortgage, it becomes a trade line item. But these two companies, they haven't figured out how impactful does a rental situation impact the credit score or the credit report yet. It impacts it, but they're still doing analysis on it, and there's new innovation coming out from the two teams. So it is very new to that extent.
Yeah, it kind of makes total sense that they would be doing this given how many people are renting now. And okay, so open room, court judgments, it's fully legal to post a court judgment. And how do you know that it's legal to do so if you're a landlord who's considering posting on there?
We know that it's legal because it is public information. First of all, you can actually go straight to any of the courts or to the landlord tenant board yourself and request for something called the Freedom of Information request. And it could take 4 weeks, 8 weeks, or beyond for them to gather that information and send it back to you, but you can do it yourself.
That's how you get the court order?
That is one of the other ways that we get the order. So it's not just crowdsourcing from the community, but we also do other ways. We also have other ways.
Okay, but if you have a court order from the LTB, like you'll have a document that then can be submitted to your team.
Yes.
And you can do that for free, and then does somebody in your team review that before it's then posted?
Yeah, we absolutely review every single one that comes in. And for anybody who thinks that you can get away with posting an image or some fraud document, it doesn't work. We have rejected thousands.
Thousands?
Yes, thousands over the last 2 years of fraud documents or people who just want to post things that are not actually in order but want to defame somebody else. We do not do any of that.
So people are frauding these court orders.
Yep.
And putting them in.
Yeah, but we have caught every single one of them.
Wow. So you have some sort of fraud detection software.
We are able to detect when someone has manipulated certain things in the software or in the document, yes.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah. Or people just send in images and think that we can't catch them, but we go through every single one very thoroughly. Okay.
So now when somebody searches up a name, and let's say, they have an applicant for their property.
Yeah.
And so best advice is to, now that this service exists, I would highly recommend going to OpenRoom.ca, putting in that name of the tenant applicant, maybe putting in even different variations of their name. I guess it would go by their legal name. So whatever's on their ID, right?
Yeah. You would put in any name that you know of and then any aliases that they might have. But it's not just the applicant. You should actually also put in references that they might put on the application or employer names just to make sure that there's no funny business that comes out of the applicant.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you might find something interesting because sometimes people apply and then they might not be the one living in there. So you want to see every single name that they have listed on there that you can search inside OpenRoom.
I love it. In depth. Yeah. So I actually did a search for a tenant's name and I didn't find anything, but I saw another name pop up from a court order that had been uploaded there. And it was a Rockstar member's name. And I recognized the name. I'm like, oh, so I know some Rockstar members already using it.
Yeah.
Okay. So then when you let's say you find a court order, what's actually shown on these? Like how much information is shown?
How much information is shown on a court order inside OpenRoom? Well, you look at it, there's the tenant's name, the landlord's name, or any of the two parties, and then there's the address of the rental unit, and then the body text. The body text could go anywhere from when the meeting or the hearing was held by the adjudicator, the judge. It can talk about the unpaid rent, the damages. It can have a payment schedule in there. There's a whole bunch of information in the body text, and that's what we call meta text, and we have been doing analysis on the meta text. Can I share some of the interesting stats with you?
Please.
Okay, so I was looking at how much unpaid rent was owed inside OpenRoom over the last 3 years. Okay, can you guess how much?
Oh God. Well, I cheated because I did my research. Is it 125 million?
Way more than that. So we are looking at right now, this is October 2024, it's about $162 million of unpaid rent. And that's only what we know of based on the orders that we have received at OpenRoom.
Okay, what percentage of orders, and this is from the Ontario Landlord Tenant Board only?
This is specifically for Ontario. So we have estimated 10% of all of the orders available.
In what time range?
This is between 2021, mid 2021 to 2024.
Where do you get 10% from?
We're able to see how many LTB orders or applications are posted or are sent into the LTB, because LTB gives out judgments. The LTB gives out numbers and stats. So there were about 76,000 last year.
Wow.
Okay. And then we look at how many does OpenRoom have. So we take out a percentage of that over the last 3 years. And then we see, all right, we have very little. Not all LTB judgments or applications that go into the LTB end up with an adjudicated decision. But if you do a little bit of estimation or extrapolation on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's impossible to know, but you got to use your best numbers there.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we look at, say, Toronto. Toronto itself, we know that it's high density, right? So that's about 41 million of the 162 million.
Wow. Yeah. And that's just Ontario.
Yeah.
So Canada-wide, it's even more. Like, what percentage of the court orders on your website are Ontario versus other provinces?
Yeah, right now we're looking at about 85% that is specifically Ontario. And then the rest are the rest of Canada. So how we look at it is that Ontario has a very big problem with unpaid rent. Mm-hmm. And not every province is made equal. So we say we have to look at Ontario and try to solve the problem in Ontario first. And then we look at how can we go out to the other provinces and do more there.
Yeah, wow. So 162 million unpaid rent. Do you have stats on other things like damages, other types of court orders aside from non-payment of rent?
We do look at the different categories, but the main focus that we do is look at unpaid rent.
Real estate investing isn't always easy, but it can be relatively simple. And that's where the Rockstar Inner Circle comes in. Look, there's a lot of real estate investing information out there these days. That's why it's so important to pick your sources wisely. And even though investing isn't always going to be the easiest process, it does not have to be super complicated. That's where tried, tested, and proven strategies like the ones that Rockstar members use come into play. Everything shared in the Inner Circle is built from firsthand on the streets experience in the current market. It's all up to date, things that people are actually implementing today. In fact, the ongoing courses are delivered live, so they're always up to date with the absolute latest real life experiences. As a Rockstar member, get ongoing access to over 20 different systems and programs covering things like which properties investors like and why, our private rental system, what opportunities the investors are scooping up in student housing currently, the legal side of investing, why or how to use corporations as an investor, a mortgage class with the absolute latest options and programs to build your portfolio as an investor because they're different than a regular home buyer. And there's a whole ton more in all those different classes. Of course, to implement all these strategies, members get access to unlimited private one-on-one coaching with an actual human experienced investor, not an AI chatbot, not ChatGPT or anything like that. It goes beyond training, classes, and real estate. It's a community for people looking to take control of their own finances, to give themselves options and allow them to live life on their terms. With ongoing live and virtual opportunities to connect, it's built for investors by investors. You can see everything members get at rockstarinnercircle.com/member. It's rockstarinnercircle.com/member. Now back to the show.
Okay. Now, so the focus is non-payment of rent, but that's not necessarily your focus. That's just what happens to be what most people are uploading to your website in terms of court judgments?
Our focus is particularly on unpaid rent. But how we look at it is our vision is on the transparent and connected rental ecosystem in the future. Transparency in the sense that we want to make sure that you know what's going on in the data, in the documents, and then connected in the sense that there are so many small landlords or housing providers and so many tenants, renters out there. How can we create a better future where everybody is connected and you know more? Because knowledge is power. And I know that on the real estate Rockstar side, you look at educating people, and we do a lot of that as well because people don't understand their own rights and then the other party's rights.
Okay. So So do you have any court orders though that are non-payment?
Yes.
That are not non-payment of rent?
Yes,
you do.
We just don't dig to them as much because those they could be issues, as you said, damages. There could be ones where it's personal use situations. There could be ones where it's about tenant rights. There are so many.
Or behavioral issues.
Yes, the N5 damages, for example.
Disturbing, what do they say? Disturbing the reasonable use of the property by other tenants or neighbors, stuff like that, right? Like more behavioral things.
Exactly.
You will post, or like
it's already out there.
It's already out there. So if somebody submits it, you will post it.
We do make it public after.
Okay, so it's not like you're ignoring those ones and just doing non-payment of rent.
Yes, we should definitely clarify that. No. It's all court orders, but we do analysis, like way deeper analysis, and put more emphasis on the unpaid rent.
To get your statistics.
Yeah, to get statistics, but to really focus on them because we also, the whole topic of what we do right now is put court orders to work. So the ones that we can put to work immensely are the ones that are for unpaid rent.
And that's with the rental ledger.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. So I guess with damages, can you use the rent ledger? No, just non-payment of rent.
You can actually, we do case by case on those ones. So if there was unpaid rent and damages, we can then combine it together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if a tenant pays off all of the money owing, is there a court order that they can get to then submit on OpenRoom.ca to say, hey, it's been paid off? Or just wondering, let's say you're a landlord and you search up a tenant's name and you find something, it's non-payment of rent for $3,000, and that's been settled a long time ago, but now it's going to interfere with that tenant being able to apply for that rental because obviously that landlord is going to be hesitant to go with them. Like, is there any closure around that, or redemption for the tenant?
That is an absolutely great question. In our July 2024 call with the community, we had asked that question: is what should we do? Should we delete the order in general?
Yeah.
Should we post something on the website that says they've paid back in full, paid back in partial? We're still working on it.
Okay.
Because there's an element of how do we verify that it was actually paid? What if someone paid in cash and then they claim that they have done that, or send in a fake picture of a check? It's very difficult for us to confirm that. So right now we're at the stance of we only take factual and objective information. So unless we can verify, then we can't go out and build something that will impact thousands of individuals that are using the site right now.
Yeah.
So we're working on it. That is research in development.
Yeah, cool. It's such a massive project you're taking on. So in terms of a landlord understanding what that really means, if they search up a tenant's name and find that court order, and it's a non-payment of rent for a certain dollar amount, that means that tenant would have gone through the wait period, whatever that is at the landlord-tenant board right now. You might know better than me. What, 6 months, 7 months?
Yeah.
About there right now?
Yeah. I would say 5-6 months.
5-6 months. Okay, so it's actually come down a little bit.
Little bit. But you know what's interesting there is that you'd think it's great that it came down, right?
Oh, no.
But then, so the wait for the sheriff has gone up.
How much?
So in the past, when I was doing my eviction for my non-payment of rent tenants, it was about 2 weeks. From
the eviction court order.
Exactly, from that order that I got to calling in to the sheriff at the date that I could call in, and it was about 2 weeks, and they came out.
Yeah.
Now I'm hearing 8 weeks.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So while you have a decrease in the landlord-tenant board wait times, it's like, oh, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
But then it's now backlogging the other side.
They just hired a bunch of the sheriffs. They're like, come here, we need your help.
I think they might need to do that.
Yeah, now they need to.
Adjudicators.
Yeah,
right?
they need to go on a sheriff hiring spree.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means, let's say right now it's 6 months. That means the tenant has gone through. Well, the landlord has filed the N4, which is after 14 days.
Yes.
Right? Then the application, which is after how many days again?
So actually, hold on. If someone was their rent is due. If someone's rent is due on October 1st, they don't pay. Then on October 2nd, you can then issue the N4 non-payment of rent notice. This is for Ontario.
Yeah.
And then 14 days after that, you can then apply for an application to the board for a hearing to hear out all the details behind the non-payment of rent. And then that's where you're waiting for the 5 months to get a hearing date.
Yeah, got it. Okay. So is there like 2-week delay or something after the N4 is, no, sorry. You issue the N4, you're right. Yeah, and then 14 days after, you can then file the application. Then it's just waiting for the hearing date.
Yes.
Then you get the hearing date and you mediate it, you come up with a payment plan, or you proceed if they still have not paid with the eviction.
Yes.
And what's the delay on that point?
Oh, the fastest you can get is a standard order. 11 days. If they don't pay, you can then go to the sheriff's department the very next day.
Got it. Okay, so 14 days, and then let's say it's a 6-month wait right now, which is brutal still, but it's a 6-month wait. After the 6 months, then now you're looking at 8 weeks. So 2 more months to get the sheriff. If they extend it all the way out to the sheriff needing to be there, right? Because if they clear out all this stuff, you're good to go.
Yeah, you would still want to wait for that sheriff to come in to give you that final possession.
Yeah, so you have full legal rights to taking repossession of your property.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's an 8-month delay right now.
But you know what's so dangerous and crazy right now is that people wait for that 8 weeks, but then the day before or 2 days before, tenants end up filing a stay or a review, and then you got to wait for another hearing.
No.
Yeah.
What do you mean a stay?
A stay order is where a tenant could say, hey, I've paid back, and they could send in like a fraud check. Okay, I'm not sure if this should be on your podcast. I don't want to announce it to the rest of the world and then people find loopholes. But yeah, that's what we're seeing is that they submit a fraud check into the LTB and said, I've paid. And then the LTB says, oh, okay, now that you've given us proof that you paid, we have to go into a hearing to assess and review everything. And so please wait for the next date. And so you can't enforce the order. You can't go to small claims. You can't go to the sheriff. You just have to wait again.
That's crazy. I haven't heard of that. It's got to be a small percentage of people that really know how to play the system.
Yeah.
But still, the fact that they can get away with that. I mean, the LTB should be looking at proof of funds hitting the landlord's account.
Yeah. Well, what's really scary is that we're seeing more and more of that. And what we've also seen are people who are changing their names because OpenRoom is around.
Like legally changing their name?
Yeah, like legally changing their name.
How have you figured that out, that people are doing that?
Because there was a post on Reddit that went viral. And we know that also because landlords or housing providers or real estate agents, they send in messages into us and let us know what the legal name change is. So once we know it, we verify it, we get it onto the OpenRoom court order search engine as well.
So you'll go back to that court order and put multiple of their names?
Yes, AKA also known as whatever.
Really?
So we'll catch them.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
What a disaster. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just assume if you see an N4 notice on there, that means they went through basically about an 8-month process to get that court order on the website. So you can know, like, even if they did pay that amount back, they still didn't pay rent for 8 months to get that original thing. So it's kind of like, the tenant should be held accountable, right? Like, you at least know, hey, they went through this 8-month stretch of not paying rent, I guess.
Yes. When you're in a landlord and tenant dispute, and it's not just about landlords, the tenant side feels extremely distraught too. But overall, this process of that dispute, it's mentally, legally, financially draining on someone. I have to say, when I was going through my situation, it was one of the most stressful times of my life. There were all other things that happened in my life that also contributed to the stress, but that was one of the most stressful because as a product manager, I was telling you, I worked in software, right? And this was not where I specialized. I felt like I knew everything about real estate. Clearly I didn't. And I didn't know how to be a landlord. I thought it was just passive income. You collect the money and that's it. But that is one of the highest caution pieces that I tell people all the time. If you are a new landlord, you need to learn. You need to take courses. You need to learn a little bit more about how to work with tenants so that you can treat them with respect. Because at the end of the day, you are running a rental business. You're running a business.
Yeah. And so I noticed you have a bunch of resources and education on your website. So can you talk about some of that stuff and I guess what you've built up on the back of all these court orders and the main service you're providing?
Yes. The educational piece of Open Room, it's important to us to educate the small housing providers, especially because as a small housing provider myself, at the beginning, I thought I knew everything and that this was easy passive income. But because I went through hell, for lack of better words, I started looking at what I didn't know, and there was way too much. And so that's when we said, all right, we need to go out there and teach people, educate people. I know that there are different organizations like yours who also do that for investors. And that's what we look at as well, is how can we make people be aware of how to run a compliant rental business. So we worked with a former commercial real estate agent, Christopher Seepy, on the rental housing provider training program that we have. And we teach all about the RTA, the Residential Tenancies Act, the LTB, what it looks like, and your profit loss, cap rates, NOI, net operating income. So we run through all of that to make sure that people have a holistic view to protect themselves. Because you don't want to be one of the $162 million of owed rent in Open Room.
Yeah, so if that's an estimated 10%, and that's just Ontario, you're looking at
billions.
$1.6 billion.
Something like that. Over $1 billion of unpaid rent. And if you think about that, you can think about, wow, how much taxes can the government have collected from a provincial and federal perspective if there were $1 billion of rent paid?
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I've never thought about it like that.
They could do so much more.
Yeah. Well, screw the government. What about the landlords?
It's true.
But
it's
true. That's a fantastic point, because what a massive incentive for the government to actually do something about it. Now, I know behind the scenes, they seem to be hiring more adjudicators, and it's easy to kind of criticize without knowing what's going on. But it is like a bit ridiculous how bad it's gotten here in Ontario.
But the thing is, there are many landlords out there that have made a bad name for the landlord community. The slumlords, the ones who create rooming houses and the living conditions. I've actually spoken to police officers or sheriff enforcement officers. And some of the things that they've shared with me are unbelievable. You wouldn't think that people could live in situations like that, but there are tenants, renters who are subjected to living conditions like what we just talked about. And it's really sad. And from that perspective, you look at what the government's responsibilities are. They do need to look at how do we protect tenants more.
Yeah, there's bad apples on both sides for sure.
Yeah.
It's a tough problem to solve.
But how beautiful would it be if in 5 years we can bring back that confidence and we weed out the bad players, but we incentivize more of the good players to be in this ecosystem together?
Yeah, 100%. And you incentivize professional tenants to not be professional tenants, and for everybody to pay their rent on time, knowing that there's further consequences.
Yes. That would be a beautiful world.
So is that how you see Open Room growing to become this Canada-wide database for this rental transparency for the majority of tenants to be on there, landlords to be on there?
We would love it if everybody in Canada knew about Open Room, and we look at how do we put court orders to work even harder. It's that there are consequences if you are a bad actor. Right? You have to be held accountable for your actions. And then we bring back the confidence, and then we bring out more supply. That would be a beautiful world. Yeah,
no, it really would. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you want to share about Open Room? Let's see if I put some questions here. Do you have anything else you want to share?
I think what would be really awesome if folks can come into our community calls. We do those on a quarterly basis, and where we share and we do workshops with the community, because at the fundamental levels, how Open Room grew at the beginning with just that 700 people looking at Open Room to where we are now today with thousands of people trusting us and counting on us to do better for the world, it's because of the community. people word of mouth talking about us. So then we said, how can we build more with the community? So when we have these community calls, people come in and they give us thoughts on, what should something look like? Why should we do something? And we share data points with the folks to help make more informed decisions. Because at the end of the day, all of us, we have ideas that we can contribute together, and we love hearing from the community.
So I'm sure you've heard it from probably both tenants and landlords looking for rental housing. They've gone on your website, searched up a landlord's name or a tenant's name, and they've seen some of these court judgments. Has that kind of gotten back to you that, okay, this is really helping people day to day?
Heck yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I get emails every week, Anthony, about how someone has been affected by what has currently happened in their life, and then how we have helped them. We have seen things that really touch my heart, where people actually, quote unquote, tell me that we have saved their ass. And I'm looking at it like, I didn't think at the beginning when I created Open Room with my co-founder that this was going to be this big. And the fact that it means that we have so much more work to do. Mm-hmm. And the last piece that I'll say here is that people in the community see us more than just software. At the fundamental basis, yes, we are software. There's code behind what we do, but we are a movement. We have a mission that we're on to hold people accountable and to create that transparency in the future. And that's what people believe that we are doing. And I hope that more people join us on this adventure.
Yeah, very cool. So you started just with, I want to get my 7 court orders out there.
Yeah.
So, so this tenant can not do the same thing to another landlord. That's how you started it. And now it seems to be growing into like a full-fledged business for you. But you're also very mission focused and, providing a much needed thing in the marketplace.
Yes.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I look at it as, why would someone want to follow our journey? It's because we are on a mission. We're not just, okay, this is software, you upload. There is much more behind what we're trying to do, and people want to see change, and they want to see someone who can lead the change. And I hope that what people see that we're doing at Open Room is that we're completely factual, we're legitimate, and that there's a great leader or leaders behind Open Room that they can trust.
Mm-hmm. So you have a team behind you now as well. It's not just you running the show.
No, it was never me running the show, even at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
So I actually work with my co-founder and chief technology officer, CTO, Vishal Bollu, and he's actually also my husband.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
So is this something you're now pursuing full time? Like
yes.
You've both of you guys, you've quit your jobs. You're all in on building OpenRoom.ca?
Yes.
Oh,
we
cool.
said earlier on this year that we were going to quit our corporate jobs, give this a try, because people are counting on us to do more for the community. So we said, all right, we're giving it a year. Let's see what we got and go from there.
Wow. Cool. Good for you guys.
Well, I don't know. I think that entrepreneurs are all a little crazy.
Yeah, crazy, but providing much needed new things in the world.
I hope so. I do believe so. And good for all of the entrepreneurs out there trying to solve a problem. I look at it as there's the right time, there's the right solution, there's the right problem. And then why am I the unfair advantage to solving the problem? And I see it as I am the right person to solve this, and I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to try it, and then we'll see where we get to. But I believe that we're on a good track because people believe in what we're doing, and we're going to keep giving them more of that belief.
So cool. So cool. So how can people further support? You can join the quarterly calls for education and to help contribute to the community. You can obviously upload your court orders that you've had anytime in the past or anytime in the future. Just make sure you go there. You can upload them. You can obviously use the site if you're screening for tenants, if you're looking for tenants, or if you're looking for rental housing to rent from a landlord. And that's a question I actually get all the time, by the way, is from tenants when I'm leasing out properties is, can you tell me about the landlord? Are they a good person? Do they live nearby? Because they want to know, are they available for maintenance issues? Can they pop over in 20 minutes if they need to for an emergency? How do they seem? Can I meet them before I sign the lease, right? So you do see it from both sides.
Yes, and in those cases, people should also check Open Room and search the landlord. They might come up. Or if you're renting from big property management side, you should see, were there maintenance issues? Were they constantly not updating maintenance? And you might end up being one of the victims as a renter, and you might not want to consider that. But at the end of it, you want to make more informed decisions, and that's what we hope to give to people.
Now, would you see the specifics of a court order, let's say for a landlord that didn't repair things, would you see in the body of the court order, whatever, so-and-so did not repair, I don't know, the faucet and there was no running water? Like, can you actually see the specific details, or it's more so just a general court order for landlord negligence or something?
No, you can see everything.
Everything.
And
there's no I guess they're all public court records. There's no privacy issues with that?
No, because it's public information.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going in there and writing additional comments or reviews on certain people or making additional comments on the court order that I wasn't involved with. We don't do any of that. And that is why it is legal and we can do what we do. And we have had lawyers on our team vetting everything that we do. So we take privacy very, very seriously.
I'm sure you need to. Yeah. There's a lot of legal liability there.
Yeah. We've got advisors. We've got a legal team. We also work with law firms and paralegals and private investigators on the work that we do. So people trust us to do it right.
Cool. So that's another good point, actually, that you guys have likely built up a Rolodex of different professionals that can help out with these situations, I'm sure, right? Like, qualified paralegals, skip tracers, possibly. You said private investigators. Would that be the case?
Yes, that's the case. It's very important for us to have people on standby or experts on standby if someone was in distress. When I look back to the days when I was going through my tenancy situation, because I lacked a whole bunch of knowledge on this realm in general, I was also very young. I looked at it and I didn't have the right people around me. And being a small housing provider, you still need to have people around you ready to help you if you need help. You can do it DIY, do it yourself. But in the case that you want someone good.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, just having a paralegal sort through some of these issues for you is can be so worth the money.
But not all paralegals are made equal. So you definitely want to check. For example, there are paralegals that will take your money and say they will do a whole bunch of things for you, but then they don't end up doing it. So you need to ask qualified questions to them. Yeah.
And have you found the same with private investigators?
Yeah.
Skip tracers?
Absolutely. Many private investigators or skip tracers are called, or they're licensed, they call themselves that. But I believe that they lack the practical knowledge to do real skip tracing.
Yeah. What if somebody has a bunch of money owed for non-payment of rent? There's a court order, they owe 14 grand, let's say, but they're dead broke. They have no money to their name. What can you do as a landlord? Can you still garnish wages, or do you kind of just have to say there's nothing I can squeeze out of that lemon? It's take my loss and move on.
That depends. Very good question. How I see it is, if you've got an order for non-payment of rent, patience is your best game. If you can get them out of your house, that's step one. But it can take
I like
a few
this.
years.
This just got sinister. I like.
But it takes a few months, a few years, where your tenants who owe you rent might trip up and they will move to a new address. You'll find them. Skip tracers will find them. There are many ways to find them. The things that I have learned, Anthony, I'll find them.
Wow.
And then later on, you look at, all right, do they have bank accounts? Do they have
I can see you just plotting in your basement.
Something like
You
that.
think you got away? Yeah. No, you didn't.
But I mean, a lot of small housing providers feel a lot of rush because they're just overcome with a whole bunch of emotions, and then they pressure the private investigators and the skip tracers to find them, get them now, and then they pressure their paralegals and everybody involved, and then everybody gets all riled up. But the thing is, patience. You don't want to get them right away. Then they'll find out, and then they're going to leave. So just calm down, breathe, wait.
So, what do you mean you don't want to get them right away?
Because...
why wouldn't you want to go after the money right away?
You would try to, but then as soon as they catch wind that you're coming after them, they're going to change their bank account. They're going to close. They're going to quit their jobs. So there are many ways that tenants could stop the garnishment or stop money, or they could move to a new place. There are so many different ways that tenants can do stuff, but you want to be quiet and you want to go after them slowly.
Okay, so let's say, the dust has settled. It's been a year or two.
Yeah.
And you found out through a skip tracer or a private investigator where this person has moved to and where they work. then what would your next step be to actually get some of that money back?
You would want to go to small claims court, do an examination hearing, or you could file for garnishment and then act fast. As soon as you're ready to act, you have to act fast.
Okay. Because how does that work? You go in and do you like serve the employer with this like wage garnishment notice or something that they have to garnish their employees' wages?
I just want to say to everybody that is listening, I'm not a legal professional. These are just some of the tidbits, insider things that I have learned.
Good to clarify.
Yeah, absolutely. Check in with your legal professional. But yes, you would have to have an official court order from small claims court that is enforced at that point. And then you go to the bank, you go to the employer, and then you serve. You serve it. So you have to physically give it to them or a variety of other ways that are illegal to do the serving.
Yeah. Sorry. I know I'm asking some specific legal questions here, but curious. I've heard the process before, but, kind of forgot it. What if that person's 100% on government benefits? Do you know if you can garnish those wages? I feel like...
You know what? That is a little bit more tricky, but based on the private investigators that I've spoken to, there is always a way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, even folks who have declared bankruptcy. That was very interesting, is that bankruptcy process takes a few years, right? And there's actually a lot of things to do for a debtor if they are going through that bankruptcy experience. So at the beginning, they might have declared bankruptcy or told you they have, or told the courts. But then it's in year 2, maybe they actually dropped the ball on it because you actually still have to pay to declare bankruptcy. So if you couldn't pay rent before, now you'd have to pay for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
All that is to say, long story short, when we were discussing it in private investigations details, like there was a workshop, the former police officer had shared with us that not everybody goes through the full bankruptcy cycle. Yeah. So that means you can still go and garnish later on, and which is why patience is the game, because you just have to wait a little bit. And then they might drop the ball.
Yeah.
But of course, this is like best case scenario out there, and people might actually declare bankruptcy. But just wait. Just wait a little.
They'll get money again.
Not everybody will get money, but just wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think at the beginning, and I was looking at it, I was like, how do I share what I know with more people? Because the things that I know, the experts that I've spoken to, they've taught me so much. And that's why we go out there and we educate people. So there is that paid course that I talked about earlier, but there's also a lot of Instagram content that I would put out. And that is all free. I just talk short form tidbits of knowledge for people because I'm like, I wish I had known what I'm sharing right now.
Yeah.
For people.
So cool what you're doing. So cool. Seriously. Where can people follow your Instagram?
Oh, it's on OpenRoom HQ.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Instagram is where we are primarily, but then we're now going into more of the long form content. So you'll find us very shortly more on YouTube. I'm producing some of the content there. I'm scripting, filming, and doing some of that. And that is where I'm looking at like high quality information that I can share with people based on what I learned. Because if you think about it, those who are listening, if Weiting didn't know anything, but then I spent thousands of hours dissecting it, the things that I know, I think will be more than the average person will know. So I want to share that with everybody. Yeah. Little bits that I know, I'll share it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to leave us with anything? Shout out, where to go, OpenRoom.ca, anything like that?
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to share more about is the other side of me that is outside of, say, rental housing and all of this. The majority of my time is spent on looking at bad case scenarios. This is what I experience all day long because of the court orders. Mm-hmm. But the majority of tenants are actually fantastic. Mm-hmm. Like 80%, more than 80% are just fantastic. And I do want to give a shout out to all the great renters out there, the great landlords, housing providers, real estate agents, paralegals, professionals out there that make the rental ecosystem work. Canada is a great place to invest in, and I want people to continue to look at it as a great place to invest.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're really good. And then the other side to me, outside of all this stuff, is that I'm a huge advocate for women, immigrants. So if you have any listeners out there that are in the minority who are Asian, East Asian, I definitely give back a lot to that end.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, Weiting. OpenRoom.ca is where you can learn more. Check it out. Highly recommend starting to use this in your tenant screening process. And maybe even your apartment hunting process. So Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming in, and it's so cool what you're doing. And on behalf of Rockstar and the entire Rockstar community, thank you for putting this together, because I can just see it continuing to grow from here and providing a huge service to this whole community. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We have so much more to do to create a more transparent and connected rental ecosystem.
I love it. Thanks, Weiting.
Okay.